Welcome to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. On the radio, on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com. Now it's time to discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. And today we're going to be talking to Tony Tylman about reverse mortgages and other types of ways to access your home's equity. Tony Tylman is a loan officer, business owner, real estate investor, and consultant. But first, we're going to talk about the financial focus for the day with Joseph Warren, financial planner with Financial Planning HQ. He's been sponsoring the show for the last month and a half with his father and brother. They're a team that does financial planning. And you're going to talk to us about some ways to access home equity. What are some of the reasons someone might want to or need to unlock their home equity?
Yeah, great question. I'm really excited to be back. And I know a lot of your audience is, older adults, retirees is what I've seen. And for our clients who are retired, there's something that I like to call the kind of like the silent thief of their wealth. Other people have called it a hidden tax. You may know what I'm referring to, but it's a big threat. I think it's sometimes the biggest threat to a lot of people's financial strategy or their financial plan.
Inflation.
Yep, that's it. So, the government prints money at about a rate of 7% per year on average. And 2 to 3% of that goes towards things getting more expensive. So I know we've all had the situation where you go to the grocery store and you're like, I can't believe the eggs are this expensive. The steak, it costs so much money. All the food is getting more expensive, but the quality of food hasn't really gone up.
Right.
It's the dollars that are weaker. Or I remember like when I was a young kid, I remember like $100 would get you a lot of groceries, but now it's like, 2 days worth of groceries real quick. A lot of that is just, your buying power is going down over time. And then we also have asset inflation as well. So to protect against the dollar losing value, people put their money in stocks, investments, bonds, real estate. They put their money into all these different things. And the idea is to beat inflation. But that leads to asset inflation as well. That's where the other 4% goes of money that's printed. And, a good example of that, not a good example, but something that kind of shows the point is that in 2019, the median home buyer, the average age of median age of a home buyer was 33 years old. This year, it's 40 years old. So people are getting priced out of buying their first home. So assets are getting inflated as well. So it's a real thing, right? Since COVID too, we had a 9.1% inflation rate, which means that, in 2022, if you had 100,000, it would spend like 91,000 at the end of that year. And by this year, it'd be about 83,000 in spending power. So one reason you might want to unlock the equity in your home is because you have a lot of equity in your home. It inflated over time, and maybe you've paid it off over your lifetime. And at the same time, you don't have a lot of cash flow. So it might help you with either an emergency expense, home improvement, and reverse mortgage is more for lifestyle. Like if you can't meet your cost of living or you need some help, wealthier clients also use them as well. And I'll go into that quickly. And I know you have in-depth knowledge because you do this all the time.
Yeah, we'll talk to Tony about that.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about the 50-year mortgage because the politicians have been bringing that up, but we'll save that for the next segment.
That's a hot topic. And the 15-year car loan, which just sounds silly. I don't know what a car is going to be good for 15 years. But
so I like the metaphor of the silent thief of inflation. And I know that seniors are always talking about their fixed income. And so I'm glad that you brought those things up. So building on that, what are some ways that people can unlock the equity in their real estate investment properties or their home?
Yeah, just from a planning perspective, because I know Tony's going to go into it more in depth, but some things that I've seen, a simple way that people can do that is just by downsizing. I've recommended to clients before that they downsize their house. So sometimes you're an empty nester, you had a big, large home, maybe it's 2 stories and you don't really go upstairs much, or you have mobility issues.
Well, I know that's the case for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally don't go upstairs.
Yeah, or there's a room that's just storage,
right?
Or there's a bunch of empty bedrooms. So you have this house, but you're not really using it. So sometimes it makes sense to downsize your home And then the profits of that capital gains actually gets sheltered from taxes up to $250,000 if you're single, $500,000 if you're married, and you buy a house that costs less money, maybe is a little bit smaller, fits your needs, and that money can help supplement your income in retirement.
Yeah, the only difference with me is that I want to buy a more expensive home in a
That's-
nicer neighborhood.
That's well, you're in the accumulation phase.
That's
That's
right.
That's what we call it in financial planning. So me too.
Yeah, so thank you for some of those real world examples. Are there any other takeaways that you want to mention?
Yeah, wanted to go through, if I could, real quick, a few of the other ways, if that's okay, just real briefly,
Yes.
that people can do that. Because another way is owner financing to family. That's some things that I've seen where you can unlock the equity of your house, and that's kind of like an inter-family loan, where you stay in the house, you get to live in it, and your family pays you that monthly income each month to help supplement what you need, and they're buying the house from you. And the upside to that is you get to stay in the house, and then it goes to family. But you have to have family members who are willing to and financially able to do that. So that's something that's limited.
I've had clients that did that with their business.
Yeah.
They sell the business to a child or their children. Children pay them an installment.
Yeah.
So it's like an income that they get to receive. And the kids can afford it because it's just all cash flow through the business.
Yep. And then, of course, I know HELOCs, we have a, master real estate investor here, but HELOCs is pretty simple. It's just, it's kind of like turning your house into a credit card.
We'll say what it is.
It's basically using your house as collateral to get a line of credit.
Home equity line of credit.
On the equity in your house. And just some things to look out for there that I've seen with financial planning is you don't want to max out your credit cards. You don't want to max out your HELOC either, because home prices tend to go up. We're talking about asset inflation, but you never say never. Nothing's a straight line up. So if you could become underwater on your home where it's worth less than it was before, you could get stuck in the house, or you lose some options. Like sometimes I remember in 2020, I was telling people to refinance 2021, refinance their mortgages because the rates were like 2%. Even I saw one in the 1% at that point in time. And it was a great financial move to do. Right. But if you maxed it out, you wouldn't be able to do that. You need to make sure you have some equity there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Those are some good real life scenarios. But
let me ask from a planning standpoint.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, you're talking about the older adults, and I'm curious from a needs standpoint. 80% of older adults are living paycheck to paycheck.
Wow.
Right? Barely making ends meet. And they're on that fixed income, and they're fighting inflation. And at that point, the other side is that 80% of older adults own their home.
Yeah.
60% own it free and clear. And so that's where, there's a big debate, a discussion of whether it makes sense or not. And to do, like you mentioned, the reverse mortgage, and a couple of the financial professionals out there, Dave Ramsey, big name in radio, big name on, podcasts and stuff. Susie Orman.
Oh yeah.
They say run from this product.
Well, let's save this for the next segment, Tony, because I want you to go into specifics there.
Yeah.
But Joseph, I wanted to know if you have a resource this week.
I do. And I could speak on that real quick because my philosophy, as a financial planner is some things have stigmas to them. I think reverse mortgages have a stigma to it.
Yeah.
And, you kind of think of like, you could lose your home, things like that. If you don't pay your property taxes, you don't maintain the house, you could lose it. Sometimes people who do it don't have as much money, even though there's wealthy reasons to do it as well. There's planning mistakes, but even sometimes wealthy people don't do it if it makes sense because of the stigma. But with that being said, it's just a tactic, and it can really improve people's quality of life if they fit certain criteria, which I would, we can go over later. We can talk about that. But, if don't have heirs to pass it to, why do you need to have this house if you don't have any money? Right? That's a great reason. They would be like, just use the house because you don't have any cash flow.
Or again, and I'm curious from a planning standpoint, because this is what you do, is why are people more concerned about giving their money to their heirs than taking care of their quality of life, making sure their healthcare is tip top, making sure their fitness is tip top, their food is tip top, and they sacrifice, and they make
You got too many estate planning attorneys out there saying that you should leave an
You
inheritance
gotta
to your
your
children's
legacy.
children.
I think
That's what it is.
so. My philosophy of that is that everybody's different. I've had clients say, I don't want to leave any money to my kids. And maybe it's for good reason because their kids would just destroy it.
Right.
Right. And I've had, my kids are everything they'll say, I want to make sure they had a better life than I do. And we kind of personalize the strategy to that. But
So everybody's different.
Everybody has a unique set of values that's important to them. And whether or not a reverse mortgage is right would have to do with that. Because you may have heirs and, they hate you. I've seen where they don't even like their parents. And their parents haven't even really done anything wrong, it doesn't seem like.
Right.
So
Well, it's time for you to talk about the resource.
okay. So the takeaway is that we create strategies for our clients using math and science, running actual simulations of things like a reverse mortgage, knowing what's important to them as well, to show them this is the absolute best course of action to take. And we can substantiate it with showing this increases your chances of success. It has all these pros. These are some of the cons and the costs of it. And everything has that in finance.
Right.
And I want to offer to your audience, and I've done this every week, but a guide of different ways to unlock equity in your house and different ways to do that in retirement. And I'll send that to anyone who just gives me a call at 210-444-2128. That's 210-444-2128. And for the first 3 people who call, same thing as last time, I'll send you a free copy of this book that'll massively increase your chances of achieving your financial goals.
Awesome, Joseph. Thank you for giving us the financial focus this week.
My pleasure.
The silent killer, what did you call it?
The silent thief stealing your
silent
wealth,
thief,
inflation, or
which is
currency
inflation.
devaluation. Yep.
Next segment, we're going to be talking with Tony Tylman about mortgages and investing and all kinds of other things. But remember to subscribe to YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for Talk Law Radio, look for the Lady Justice and the red, white, and blue logo, and join the fun. Comment on the videos. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 commandments. And now we have municipal, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws that might impact you without you knowing it. So tune in to Talk Law Radio on KLUP 930 AM The Answer. Also KSLR 630 AM The Word and KNTH AM 1070 in Houston. Also Facebook Live, YouTube, and talklawradio.com. So Tony Tylman is here. He's going to be talking to us about reverse mortgages. We're going to find out what the stigma is and why it is and what are the benefits, what are some of the costs. We just want to find out the details. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm really passionate about older adults living their very best life, and I read statistics like 80% are living paycheck to paycheck on a fixed income. with the inflation thief,
Mhm.
dealing very poorly with that because their cost of goods is much more expensive. But then I watch people and talk to people that are like, oh, I needed to get a massage and I didn't get a massage. Why not? Nah, it's just not in the budget right now.
Mhm.
And it's like the fixed income only goes so far. And then I was sick last week and I got an IV. They came to my house, gave me an IV, and I was completely dehydrated, and it cost $200. And I was like, wow, how many? She's the nurse that was giving me the IV. She said seniors are older adults, very dehydrated, frequently dehydrated, but they won't use this service because it's not covered by their Medicare. And so, what are some of the other things that they don't take care of themselves anymore? They're worried about protecting an inheritance, possibly. They want to give something away, or they just don't see options. And the stigma around reverse mortgages comes from a couple things. One, there was a time, these we're talking about the baby boomer generation, where their parents lost their homes, or they heard stories about the grandparents losing their homes,
Right.
and
The
the
Great Depression.
Great Depression, and it was always pay your house off. You don't want to,
or in 2008.
Oh, yeah.
you don't want to owe the bank.
Yep.
And so that idea of having an equity rich environment really changes from a cash flow standpoint, but that's been cemented in their belief system, is that's one thing that you do. And then, reverse mortgages really are not that old. It started in 1970 something, and it was a way for older adults to get money to be able to pay for other things. But there was some predatory lending going on. There are people who took advantage of the systems, and some people lost their house. The spouses of the passed away, primary borrower, they would get evicted. And if they didn't pay for their house or upkeep the house, they could get evicted.
Wow.
So it has to be managed, but that fear was very real. The other part that's also changed is now there's mandatory education. And lenders cannot influence that education at all.
Has to be by a HUD accredited
That's correct.
counselor.
Yes. And there's a list of them, but we can't tell them which on the list. They have to negotiate their fee, but they have to go through that training. So that education process has been really important for making it available. And so we work with some reverse mortgage companies that, I asked them, it's like, because the statistics are, Dave Ramsey will say, don't do it, right? He'll say the fees are too high. Why don't you sell your house instead, which we talked about in the first segment, which is possible. But a lot of times now, if somebody sells their house, even their new house has higher taxes than what they were paying in their existing house because their taxes have been frozen. Mm-hmm. So did they really change their monthly cash flow that they have to make that payment out of? Not necessarily. And a lot of older adults don't want to move. Yes, it's a solution to unlock, yes, it makes sense to downsize. They don't use the upstairs. However, they don't want to move. That's their house. They want to stay in that house. So if you create this, if you educate your clients on, or the older adult on what their options are, all of a sudden it's like it frees up. What could $1,000 a month do for an older adult? Medication, the right food, being able to entertain themselves and do more fun things so they can enjoy retirement. That's what retirement's about. Retirement was not supposed to be about sacrifice.
Or paying for home care so that they don't fall down.
Again, another, home care, massages, for the ladies, getting their nails done, getting their hair done, feeling good, self-esteem. That's
Mm-hmm.
what helps longevity and having a great quality of life.
Yeah.
So I'm on the bandwagon of helping people understand that it's a viable option, and understanding what the expenses are in comparison to not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden it's like, wow, the power of what that can do for somebody and their growth. I have a 92-year-old neighbor. Her name's Nana. We think she's an angel. Swear to God, she's just awesome. She could be on the Fiesta poster. She's just a wonderful woman. Nana at 92 is starting to do therapy, physical therapy. And it's making her feel great. She's got different energy now. She's got, excitement and enthusiasm that she didn't have before. Well, fortunately for Nana, she's got the resources to do it. A lot of people on a fixed income do not. And so they forego that. And I think that's a real opportunity to look at. It's like, not only do you have that opportunity to feel good, physically, mentally, then it just opens up a much more healthy lifestyle for the older adult.
Can you talk about the rules? Like, who is the reverse mortgage available to?
Sure. So the basic rules are anybody who's 62 and owns a home may qualify for a reverse mortgage. There's some qualifying requirements because you still have to maintain your house. That's part of it. You don't maintain your house, they could call the note due. And so what's maintenance? Roof, the house can't be falling apart. You have to take care of it. And so part of that is they have to have some people who are helping them manage things, because as they get older or forgetful or something happens, that can affect that loan. At 62 though, they don't get very much money. It might be 5 or 10% of the value of the home.
Okay.
This product is really key for people who are over 70, 75.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because now that they can get a larger amount that allows them to have more options. And it's a one-time thing. So if somebody at 62 takes out their loan, well, that's that loan for that period of time. The older someone is, the more they qualify for to be able to make a difference in their financial lifestyle.
And how is it repaid?
So that's the fun part about this. There is not a monthly payment obligation. And so when you were talking earlier about HELOC, home equity line of credit, now, and that's one of the things, again, some of the people are like, oh, you need to get a home equity line of credit instead. However, that comes with a payment. And so while it was less interest and it was less fees to get that home equity line of credit, it's got to be paid back. And on a fixed income, that doesn't necessarily make sense.
I usually don't see the HELOC with retirees. It's usually home real estate investors and one-off, I'm going to do a home improvement. I'm going to, I have a one-time expense type of flexibility.
Right. But I'm glad you brought it up, because I have these questions about, let's compare a reverse mortgage with this. And that was one of them.
Yeah.
The HELOC. What about reverse mortgage versus refinancing?
So refinancing can be a great play, and it depends on what your asset mix is. But somebody who's on a fixed income, a refinance creates a monthly obligation. Someone on a fixed income isn't looking to increase their monthly obligation. They're looking to decrease it.
Right.
So a reverse mortgage does not have a payment. Now, what does that mean? They call it reverse because the loan balance is going to increase every month. And that's where people go, oh, wait a minute. That's a really bad thing. Well, you didn't get all of your equity up front. You got a portion of it. So there's a long way to grow where that balance will likely not catch up with the value of the home. So the fear is, well, what if that balance grew so much and the market came down and the value of my house is not as great as the loan balance? Well, that feature has been kicked. And that was one of the problems with the loan before, is that somebody could owe more. Now they can't. That's part of the obligation of the reverse lender, that they take on the risk. And if they make that loan, that person will never owe, even the heirs, after that person dies or moves out of the house, sells it, they will never owe more than the value of the house.
Wow.
Yeah. So that takes a big chunk of the risk out of it.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got a client right now. They're the guys live in, he's 82, paycheck to paycheck. He's having health issues, and he wants to stay in his house, does not want to move. So they're like, well, how can we do this? How can we pay it? He doesn't qualify for a loan either. That's another one of the big things on a HELOC.
Credit.
Yeah. On a home equity line of credit and on a refinance, they have to qualify for that loan. On this, the qualifying is much easier.
Okay.
So they get the money so that they can do something with the money, which, again, financial planning is really important, because they don't want to take the money and go blow it. Right. It needs to be managed. The point of it is, hey, can I peel a little bit off of it every month to help stipend my my monthly income, or to pay for that AC that's been out for 5 years, or to pay for that hole in the roof to take care of the leak that's causing damages. That all that money is released and available to them, but it still needs to be managed.
Awesome. Well, Joseph, after we take a break, I wanted to ask you to weigh in on how you could plan for that, how you could crunch all of those numbers as a financial planner. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk more about reverse mortgages because I have some more questions, especially about how maybe life insurance could be used, because I do worry about the kids and the grandkids and all the people that are expecting an inheritance, because people really do want to leave something. It's just part of our culture, I think, in the United States is, that's what everybody else does,
I love
right?
it. Yeah, let's talk about that.
So we have to take a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. We're talking with Tony Tylman, who is a business owner, a lender, and investment investor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all around great guy too.
And I didn't ask you about your family. Do you want to let the listeners know something personal that you're okay with?
Hi, Kim. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Jags. Yeah, I've got a great wife, 32 years married. Yeah, Kimmy, she's awesome. She cooks. That's why I'm this way. And yeah, we've got dogs and we've got cats.
I
and
saw
we've got
your
kids.
chief happiness officer in one of your videos.
Yeah. So
will you tell the listeners how to find you on YouTube?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube by going to TonyTylman.com, TonyTylman.com. And if you need to call me, if you're interested in any of this, 210-710-6141 is the best way to reach me. Text or call. Just heard you from Todd's show.
Cool. So Joseph, I was telling you last segment that I worry about the beneficiaries. If somebody did use all the equity in their house to finance their health costs or big expenses like fixing the roof or the foundation, and the kids didn't get to inherit the house, are there some other financial tools that people can use to make sure that they can have their cake and eat it too?
Yeah. I mentioned a few. I talked about, the owner financing is when you can stay in the house. You can, but it really has to do with planning early, because if you have an emergency fund, then you don't have to worry about the AC going out, having to, take on a loan for that.
Well,
Even credit card debt.
I've met some older people that have a mortgage or a traditional mortgage, or they have a second mortgage.
Yeah.
I don't run into that many people that are talking about reverse mortgage. So you have a steep hill to climb there, Tony. But they also have cash value life insurance. And so I wonder if somebody could use that to make sure that they leave an inheritance for their beneficiaries.
That could also be a way. So you could, if you had life insurance as well, that could be like, okay, the house is fine because we already have this inheritance that we're going to pass to the kids.
Or pay off the house if they really want to keep the property.
Yeah. So there's planning if you have time to do it, but it's kind of like going in the past. But, you know, life insurance is important to have, especially if you do want to leave money tax-free to your kids.
Right.
Right. And, you know, things like having an emergency fund, having the right amount in there, having investments, really planning. You want to have a lot of options, right, for what you can do. And like I was saying, there's all these tools and tactics that you have, and they're all on the table. And I was even talking about how wealthy people use reverse mortgages.
Yeah, you wanted to ask Tony.
That's a
about
question.
that.
Yeah, I was very interested in, and I want to hear about. But there's all these tools that you have. You want to give yourself options where you can pass money to the kids. You know, if you have a life insurance policy, it doesn't seem as daunting to get a reverse mortgage, right? Because it's not like the risk is something you may not have to worry about.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about how the wealthy might use a reverse mortgage.
Well, it's an investment opportunity for them, right? So they can pull equity out of their house instead of having a payment. And again, the product isn't right for everybody, and not everybody should have a reverse mortgage. I think it's a tool though that can really bridge someone who is not making ends meet, that they're just getting by. And that's what we kind of focused on the last, is live your best life. And to live your best life, to get the hydration and the massages and the physical therapy and the medications that you need, then it's a viable vehicle. And you mentioned something interesting, Todd, because you're saying, hey, what about the heirs, right? Because this equity is getting eaten every month.
Yeah.
It's growing up. Well, who's paying for the parents when they're going through what they're going through?
Right.
Shouldn't the kids be at the same, that's almost a flip side, is shouldn't the kids be stepping up? This is a way to give the kids relief that they don't have that obligation.
Oh, right.
And it also makes the parents feel good because they don't want their kids.
They don't want to be a burden.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's where that can also come into play. As far as the wealthy looking at it, it's another tool that they can, you know, they could get a home equity loan. And if they're wealthy, they might qualify for an equity loan. Might make better sense because the interest rates and the costs are a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Or they look at it and say, hey, I don't want that monthly obligation associated with it, but I do want the availability of those funds. So that's how they could use it. And then they'll take that money and they'll use it for different things, for investments, or even, how about this? How about philanthropy? I look at people who are, you know, I go to church and there's a lot of elderly people in the church, and man, they would love to make a donation. They would love to, you know, help support something that they believe in. And my deal is, why do you have to wait until you die to make a contribution?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a really neat opportunity that you could use this to say, hey, you know what? I've got an extra. If I take out $150,000, I could give $20,000. I could give $30,000, or give money on a monthly basis. They have that ability to feel good about themselves. When that plate comes around in church, instead of passing it along, they're able to write a check, a meaningful check to things that they believe in. And it doesn't have to be church. It could be whatever their cause is that they believe in. They can make a difference. And without that product, they might not be able to make that difference.
Great point. I want to ask some estate planning specific questions related to real estate. Can somebody get a reverse mortgage if they've recorded a transfer on death deed or ladybird deed, life estate deed?
Oh, you're playing stump the lender right there. Well done. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't.
Same question with a revocable living trust. You
Okay.
ever
You're
run into that?
2-0, Todd. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll look into that and get
You
back to
set
you.
me up, man. I wasn't
Well,
ready for that.
I should have asked you the other
No,
day
that's
when
all
we
right.
were
That's good
talking
stuff
on the
to
phone.
figure out.
But I just thought of it today because I was giving a talk at Oasis about transfer on death deeds, and so it was kind of stuck in my mind. Now you do more than reverse mortgages. Tell us about some of the other tools in your bag.
Yeah. So my basic business is people buying houses or people needing to refinance their houses. So it's purchase money, it's refinance. If somebody's on a VA loan or a FHA loan right now, FHA and VA rates are in the 5s. A lot of people bought in the last 3 years at 7 and 8%. So it may make sense for them to look at refinancing. That's again the core piece of my business. But I'm passionate about helping older adults. That's where the reverse side comes in. And then the other piece is helping really wealthy people understand tax advantages and how they can save money. And so there are some ways that the super wealthy, not super wealthy even, they're like you make $400,000, you're going to have a $80,000 obligation to the IRS. That's a lot of money. $80,000. Well, think about what if you could keep some of that $80,000 or all of that $80,000. And that's where real estate comes into play. And that's where some financing techniques come into play. Some advanced accounting comes into play. And what we've found is that it's really tough to get good advice in investment real estate. So only 11% of realtors own investment property. What's that tell us? They don't know what they're doing, right? They don't believe in it. They don't have it.
Right.
They can't identify it. So I have a project right now. I'm trying to buy a house. I have to close on it by the end of the year because I'm trying to wash away my income with the tax benefits that are available because of what Trump did in 2017 and what they just recodified in the big beautiful bill this summer. So there are opportunities where all the income I've made on all my other transactions and all my business, I can wash because my wife is an accredited investor. Okay. You have to qualify for this. But because she qualifies, because she manages our real estate portfolio, we can buy a house, and instead of paying the IRS $100,000 this year on our obligation, let's say, I can take that $100,000 and put it down on an investment piece of real estate. And now I own an asset that's going to grow in value. And now I have a huge write-off. So I have a write-off of I have an ordinary loss against my ordinary income, and I can wipe my income out.
That sounds really complicated. If somebody calls you, can you help them with that?
I can, absolutely. So again, I can be reached at 210. My name's Tony Tylman, 210-710-6141. Now, I have a doctor client made $800,000. That's a lot of money. So in 2023, he spent $300,000 of his paychecks were taken out to go to the IRS. That was his tax liability, $300,000. After we showed him what to do, his tax liability went down to $25,000 in 2023. So he started 2022, he paid $300. 2023, he paid $25,000. 2024, he paid $0.
Wow.
Awesome.
Same income.
I'm looking for people that own a multi-million-dollar house and earn more than $500,000 a year, some of which income is produced by assets like rental properties or treasury bonds or interest or dividends because of the SALT deduction, the state and local tax. When you have a multi-million-dollar home, your property tax is high enough to want that deduction. And if you earn more than $500,000 a year, the SALT deduction is phased out gradually as you earn more. So if I can offload some of those income producing assets into a trust so that now that the trust has to deal with that for the beneficiaries, I love the beneficiaries, then we can help those people get a SALT deduction when it might have been phased out.
Interesting. So again, there's multiple levels of how to deal with any kind of financial planning
Tax
or
strategy.
even estate planning. So
Right.
yeah, you're talking about things again, stump the lender. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, I got to learn more about that SALT deduction.
You
That's
mentioned the
interesting.
physician that causes my spidey sense to go off.
I have, the physician is a great resource because they're usually not self-employed. They're W-2. And when you're W-2, that's where your employer gives you a paycheck and takes out your deductions. You don't get any write-offs. You don't have that ability outside of your standard deductions. And I think real estate was $10,000. And on the property taxes, which is, just an average house right now. So,
Yeah, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll be talking about legacy. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. We're here talking about mortgages, reverse mortgages, investment financing. We're talking with Joseph about financial planning and how that fits into this, some legal strategies. And you guys know that attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm focus on business and estate law. It's all about legacy. So this is the legacy segment.
And now it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
Okay, so Tony, you're in the hot seat again
Okay.
because we like to ask our guests about legacy. Tell us what impact you've made or would like to make on the community.
That is a really been a very interesting question. I appreciate you asking. It's really something I haven't looked at or thought about in a while. And my impact is about my family. Okay, it's am I a great husband? And how can I be a better husband? So again, that's self-judgment coming out. But how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better brother? And then it comes to the community side of things. And in my business, I struggle with the fact that people don't manage their money well. I struggle with the older adults living paycheck to paycheck, as we've discussed, when there are solutions out there. And I'm working on an educational piece to let people know how they can get out of debt without being completely miserable in the process. You know, and that is not taught. That is not a course that's being, you know, shared with somebody. It's a propaganda event that we're up against, because the banks are telling people, pay your bills, protect your credit. And it's all at the same time. They're also saying, oh, by the way, here's another credit card. Hey, oh, you're maxed out on this one, take this one. And they are spiraling people into bad situations, and bad situations lead to money is the source of most fights in marriages. Most breakups in relationships are over money.
Yeah.
And so when people can't manage their money, they don't understand their options, then it's bad. So bad relationships, bad community, bad relationships, bad employees. And it's unfortunate, because there could be some very healthy ways that people need to learn how to do things. So my legacy that I'm working on is helping people find that piece of understanding how they can take control of their financial freedom, and that they know their choices no matter what situation that they're in. So any situation we're in, however it can feel bad, I wake up every day and honestly I say, man, I'm glad I'm not in Gaza. Right. You know, it could always be worse. And that's part of, you know, what Joseph and I were talking about, and you and I were talking about, is that, you know, the training and the tools that we've learned to protect ourselves and build ourselves up. A lot of people don't get.
Right.
That's not available in the public high school system, and it's not available in the junior colleges. And that's where most people are at. And so if they're never given those tools of how they can embrace life, have a great attitude, be thankful, have gratitude, then they become victims and they become cancers and they become bad community members.
Yeah, I'm blessed that my dad taught me those values of have a good attitude, pursue education, always be improving yourself. Jim Rohn, I think, says you can make a living if you work hard.
Yeah.
But if you work on yourself, you can
Make a life, right? Something like that.
something.
Yeah.
You can, I don't know.
Yeah.
So tell us, Tony, is there something that was passed down to you, like an inheritance, something that you want to pass on to?
Man, I would
family
love
members?
to say, and I still ask my wife, I'll kind of give her a nudge and say, is there a dowry? Wasn't there something? Isn't there something coming? No. So I did not get that. I was very fortunate. My dad paid, my mom and dad paid for my education, you know, so I'm very pleased that my kids don't have any student loan debt. You know, that's a really, really great thing. But in terms of passing things down, outside of wisdom, love, memories, which are really important, great photographs, not so many videos. The one thing that I have is my dad's train set. We used to set it up over Christmas every year, and that was a really neat thing because that was a family event.
Right.
My dad helped me put that together. There was some electronics that went on with that, and setting up the train set to go around the Christmas trees. A fantastic memory. So spending time together, learning things from him. And so now we have these train sets, and I have one in front of my desk in my office. So I think about my dad all the time.
That's great.
Yeah, I've got little trinkets of
Family
his.
tradition is important.
Yeah. And then I've been able to give some of the trains to, my brother and sister. And so they have, little memory mementos of that.
Right. Cool. Well, before the break, we were about to get into, you were talking about being an investor or somehow saving tax dollars doing real estate investing. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. There's techniques out there for accredited investors, and an accredited investor, according to the IRS, is somebody who spends 750 hours in that profession. Now, so not everybody qualifies. A realtor, for instance, because they're in real estate, does not qualify. It is a 750 hours of active active activity in investing in real estate. This law was this legislation was passed to encourage people to invest in real estate, because real estate drives everything. So real estate, let's start with who's making money on it. The realtors are making money on it. All right. The roofers, we talked about your wife. Yeah. The roofers are making money. They got to fix things. All right. The painters came in. Now I need new furniture, right? I need the landscaping needs done. The yard needs done. I need irrigation equipment.
Right.
I'm going to Home
Lots
Depot.
of different
It
parts.
is an economic engine. And that's what they want to boost. So this is not just for residential real estate. It's investment real estate. So it's also for commercial investments. And so depending on the sophistication of the borrower, it depends on what they're looking to buy. So the more sophisticated they are, they start looking at SALT deductions and things like that. Things I don't know. I'm a little bit lower on that vein, but it's like, hey, why am I putting money into? I think this is an interesting piece. I think the 401k is a scam.
Yeah, we can definitely have a whole show on that.
Yeah. So we'll go back to that. But if your company's matching it, take the match. But beyond that, what memories are created in a 401k? None. But what if you took that money and you bought a lake house, okay, or a beach house,
right,
or a vacation house? And now, goosebumps, you're creating lifetime memories with your family and your kids, and bringing people over, and that's also an investment. Okay. Because they're not making any more waterfront, right? So real estate values continue to go higher. That's an investment. There's the tax strategy write-off in. If you have to rent that property out as well. You can't just be for personal use.
Okay.
But if you buy a lake house and you put it on Airbnb and rent it out and you create income from it, you do get that benefit. So
how do I spend 750 hours doing that?
Well, again, you're logging things, but you have to travel to the property. Now, are you out looking you're an accredited investor? Are you out looking for other property while you're driving around? Okay. So I'm in the neighborhood all the time, looking at this house, looking at that house. Okay. So we have accounting issues on the houses. Every month we have to do, records, and we have to pay bills, and we have to go out and clean, and again, check on the property depending on where it is. And all of a sudden you start clocking hours pretty quickly.
Okay.
Add a second property, add a third property, and your travel time counts. So we got to talk to a tax consultant about this. All right. I have tax professionals I work with on this.
If I'm thinking about my rental property in the shower, can I count that?
I don't think they're going to give you credit for that one, Todd.
All right. Well, that's a cool tool, and you can benefit many ways, like you said, making memories, taking the family down there to the beach house or the ranch, hunting wild hogs and such,
renting it out, or not renting it out, but putting it up for auction, charity use. Again, that philanthropic thing I think is really important. People want to give. This is another way people can give.
Yeah. We had a whole show on the tax advantages of charitable giving.
Yeah. And it's just looking at San Antonio. I've been looking at real estate for my clients as well. It's a good time to buy real estate, good time to buy land. in my opinion, I don't know what the future holds, but it looks like right now it's a buyer's market. You have a lot of power.
What are
Negotiating
realtors
homes.
telling you about the market here in San Antonio?
Well, the market's been very slow. And,
Mhm.
and, you know, you look at the number of sales are still down in San Antonio.
Mhm.
The amount of sales are significantly purchased new construction.
I've heard that.
So from a
Yeah.
mortgage lender standpoint, I used to do 50% of my business was refinance. Well, everybody's at 4 and 3%. That business is kind of gone unless someone, like I've got a client right now who's got an investment opportunity and he needs to borrow $400,000. Okay, so we're taking a home equity loan. He doesn't qualify for the reverse right now. But that's the type of client who can make something happen. But as far as the market itself, new construction, good houses sell very fast, right? Quality is really a premium. If you've got a good, clean house, good flow, well maintained, it's going to sell, and it's going to sell for top dollar. Now, houses that are not well kept are going to sit on the market a lot longer. So your days on the market are longer. Pricing is a little softer, but with San Antonio and Texas's growth, job growth, we're going to see a continued solid real estate market.
Tony, before we end the show, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to contact you.
My cell phone is my go-to. It's like my bat phone. I'm dating myself saying
Well, I
that.
hope so many people call you that you get upset.
Yeah, 210-710-6141.
And you're a former radio host yourself.
I did. I had a radio show for a couple years. We called it the At Home Real Estate Show. Yeah.
And before we end the show, tell everybody how much experience you have. I forgot that earlier.
Oh, my wife and I have, we're over 100 sides right now in real estate. We've done multifamily, commercial, residential. We had a wedding venue. We've done multifamily. So yeah, we've got quite a bit of experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Joseph, thank you again.
Always a pleasure.
We'll talk to you later.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trusts, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.